All right, here's a little context. It's not even 6 a.m. I woke up early and wasn't able to sleep. Currently, I have the topic of my podcast episode right here in front of me, rubbing his head against my chin, because today, with a little nod to the recent event of July 4th, which is Independence Day in America. We're not going to get into that, but also a nod to a future episode. Wink, wink. You'll find out soon with a special guest. I am featuring my recently turned 10-year-old baby, Jayu. You are listening to Fitness Freedom, and that is the theme of this podcast: freedom in your health, freedom in your body, freedom in your fitness with food and exercise. And I'll explain, if you don't know Korean, the link that exists between this podcast and my little Russian blue baby boy cat named Jayu. So I'm going to tell you, by the way, this came to me last night. I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do my podcast episode tomorrow. What am I going to talk about? I came up with all these ideas and landed on this one as a little bit of a humorous sidestep to normal, serious, quote unquote, serious philosophical and practical ideas. But what is life without some humor? So today I'm going to talk about Jayu and what this has to do with freedom in your fitness and bring it back to a solid place where I hope it lands in your body. So, Jayu just turned 10 years old on June 26th. So, it's recently his two-digit birthday. He came into my life 10 years ago in October. So, I'll build a little bit of some contextual background for you. I had recently moved back to Korea, this time in Busan, which is one of the coolest cities in the world. I lived there for about 5 years before I came to Madison, Wisconsin, in the States. And I had just moved there. I had just been married with my then partner, and there was a film festival in Busan. So there's theaters everywhere. It was in walking distance from our home. Actually, two were. That's how common they were and how much of in the city we lived in. We were going to see this movie about comfort women, which is a really tragic topic in the history of Korean and Japanese history. You could look it up if you'd like, but one of the last, if not the last, living comfort woman who was one of the subjects of this documentary was there in person. So it was moving and tearful and victorious. And on the way to the store, on the way to the movie theater, we passed this pet store. And in the window, there was this little gray kitten who just seemed like really eager to connect with us and looked so cute. He just stood out to us amidst all the other cats in the windows and dogs in the windows. I know it's pretty sad. So on the way back from watching this movie, we were we were in our feels after watching this heavy yet liberating movie. And we just thought, what if we got a cat? And we were just starting new jobs, and my partner at the time said, let's do it. If I could use my next paycheck, we could buy him some things right now to get ready. Let's go in the store and see. So we go in the store and we tell them that we're interested in this little kitten, and immediately he's like trying to claw through the holes of the windows, through the windows, the little slits, and like trying to touch our hands, trying to bite our fingers with his little sharp teeth. And so we asked if they could keep him for us. And so next week after payday, We came and brought him home. We have a video of the first time he came into the house. He was so energetic, curious, playful, scratching everything, exploring every single thing. He had grown up since he was a kitten, probably weaned too early from his mom, in this little box. And we felt so sad that he had lived his life in this box and obviously wanted to be free. So we decided to name him Jayu. In Korean, Jayu means freedom. It's also a middle name I had chosen for one of my imaginary future kids. I was going to name them Alethea Jayu, which is truth and freedom, those two words together. We knew we weren't having kids, so we're like, let's just give this cute name to our cat. I also have a bird tattoo on my back, my that has birds in it to represent freedom, and inside there's the word aletheia or aletheia, which means truth in Greek. I'm a word nerd. So immediately when we got him, I was excited, and I had never had a cat before, contrary to my partner at the time who grew up with cats. So I had no idea how to deal with cats. I was in a new element, and pretty much immediately, like the day after the excitement of bringing him home, I was like, I think we need to bring him back. I'm like, we can we really do this? I was scared of losing my own freedom, because I was big on travel and I wanted to be able to take long weekend trips to different countries around Asia and different cities. And what would we do with a cat? He's like stuck with us forever now, basically. So I had some buyer's remorse for just a few days. And then after a few weeks, we started getting closer. So Jayu is a Russian blue. He's gray and has green eyes. If you've ever had the pleasure of meeting him, you know what he looks like. He's a beautiful little boy. And Russian blues tend to pick like their favorite person. They bond more strongly to one person. And because at the time of our work schedules, I hadn't started my new job yet. So I was at home a lot, taking care of home stuff and spending time with Jayu. I also later on had a schedule where I would spend a little bit more time at home. In the mornings, I worked in the afternoon and evening. So Jayu and I had a lot of time to bond. And he quickly just melted into my heart, where I fell in love with him, and was so enamored with all the cute things he would do, how he would like play and then fall asleep sitting up like a kitten. We went through the grueling process of living in a studio apartment, two people in a small, super small, and when I say small, I mean really small studio apartment with a kitten, and had to do the sleep training, ignoring him clawing at our heads while we were trying to pretend like we were asleep. Mm, and I liked him. He's so cute. So I call him sometimes my twin flame, because I feel like we are little soulmates, and we have some common traits together. He's very dramatic and likes to go out and do fun things and loves his treats. So he's always lived up to his name, we found out. We named him Jayu, but little did we know that he would be the most slick and fast and cunning escape artist. So Jayu wants freedom. Freedom wants freedom. Freedom wants Jayu. One night, we had our bedroom, and then we had this little laundry room where there was a small window you could open into the laundry room with a screen. And he liked to look out the window, right? So we left it open for him. And one night we woke up in the middle of the night and we were like, where's Jayu? I get up and I look because he had been picking at this screen. So I get up and I look at the screen and it's completely open and scratched through, which means that he got out through the window and we lived on the second floor. So terrified, we go outside. I look down and I see that he landed on this like a small building. We live close to a hospital. So there was like this small storage building, tech construction building that he had thankfully landed on. So he kind of jumped one floor down. And I had to climb a tree. I'd like take off my shoes in the middle of the night, climb this building, grab him, take him down. And that was the first of many scares of Jayu living up to his name. One time in a different house, he loves to go outside. He's been leash trained since he was a kitten. He's gone on hikes before. We've taken him to the beach. So Jayu definitely is an adventure boy. One time I was working and taking him up on the roof to give him some activity time. And on the roofs in Korea, you can walk on them. They're usually just a small wall from you to the air. So you can bend over a little bit and look down all the way to the floor. So we're on like the sixth floor. And we lived in a place where it was pretty crowded, and Busan is pretty densely populated. So there was another apartment of a similar height, like right next to us. And Jayu, a few times he would jump on the little ledge and I'd be like, no, Jayu, no, and try to train him. And I thought that we had done a good job. I had done a good job, like not letting him go up there because it's terrifying. But I must have been paying attention to work. This was when my business was like just a year in. And I turn around and I see him jump from our roof to the next building. So he's in a completely different building. And between our building where we were and the next building is maybe like 4 feet, 3 to 5 feet, I would say. And you can look down and see the bottom of the alley and imagine what would happen if you fell there. But there was no way for me to go into the building because it was locked. So my only option, especially to stay close to Jayu and make sure that nothing happened while I went downstairs and try to figure something out, was to jump over the building and exit through that building. So as I'm talking about this, it's not only hot and humid where I am right now, but my hands are sweating because I'm imagining the height and the feeling. I channeled all of my Mission Impossible Ethan Hunt energy. I laser focused. I took off my slippers I was wearing. I threw them over to the next building just so I wouldn't slip on them. And I stood up on the ledge and I knew I was going to have to make like the biggest jump I've ever made. I could look down 6 stories down to an alleyway where I would splat down if I missed. So I jumped as far as I could. I overshot. I landed on the ground. I was like, I'm not dead. And then I stood up and I said, Jayu, and I picked him up. We went downstairs. I was shaking and I passed by some strangers who had no idea what had just happened. They're probably like, why is this woman coming in our building with this cat? Another time when we moved from Busan to Madison, we had to bring our cats with us, Jayu and his sister, our little beloved Nyangi, which means kitten in Korean, or kitty. So goyangi is cat and Nyangi is like yang, 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 like the sound that kittens make, Nyangi. So on the plane ride, Nyangi just froze in a nervous system. From a nervous system perspective, she froze the whole time. She played dead, which she does. And I'll talk more about that later. And Jayu, his activation response is flight. So fight and flight. So he's like in this little container. It had to be really small in order for us to take him on the plane with us in the seats. I felt bad for them. It was really tiny. There was barely any room to move, but the whole time he was like picking at the zipper from the inside, and we just close it. I took him to the bathroom a couple times to let him out. No chill. And then we're sleeping. It's the lights are down. This is like a 14-hour flight. And then we had to like transfer from Atlanta to another city. So it was a huge ass ordeal. And the lights are down and it's like sleepy time. And I hear someone like kind of tapping our chairs or tapping at our chairs. And it's a flight attendant. And she asks, excuse me, do you have a little black dog? And both of us like woke from sleep in shock, like, what? And we said, no, but we have a gray cat. And then she said, well, he's running around the plane. He was back in the cabinet. So I looked down and he was in front of my seat and he was not there. The zipper had been opened and he had run through the aisles. He had gone to the flight attendant section where the bathrooms are and did a whole circle through. I have no idea what exactly he did or for how long. And thankfully, we're like, Jayu, like trying to be quiet, but call him, Jayu, come here. Thankfully, he came back. He was scared enough to come back. And there have been several more than I'd like to admit times that he's escaped where I live right now. If I miss just a little bit or forget to close the door immediately, he will run away. The longest time he was gone, and this is sad, but I was scared, but it was 2 days, 2 full days, and he escaped when a cat sitter was watching him. And he always comes back. So he always comes back. One time I was hanging outside. I think we had just come from my girlfriend's place to my place, and I was hanging out with a friend and my girlfriend, and we're sitting outside, and all of a sudden Jayu walks up, and I felt so bad. I was like, I didn't even notice that he was gone for like a couple hours. And he just comes and walks up so casually. One time I sent out like a text alert to my group friends and was like, by the way, my cat Jayu has escaped. If you see him, let me know. And then immediately after I texted in true cat style, he just walks up so casually, like he just owns the world. There's nothing wrong. He's done nothing wrong. Everything's okay. He always comes back. Now, this is different to his sister Nyangi. This is relevant, okay? I just like talking about my cats too, and I hope you're enjoying listening to it because I'm here with you. You're here with me. Hi. So, in contrast to Nyangi, we rescued from the streets about 3 years after we got Jayu. And she was in a dire condition, like close to death. She's emaciated, covered in feces and dirt, uh, extremely swollen teeth, would eat but never gain weight. We found out soon after that she had worms. We were just going to help her out, and we ended up getting a second cat. And Nyangi is different than Jayu. She's lived a life before she came to us. She's been on the streets. She had to survive. She has some mystery scars that we don't know where the origin of. And she lived in an area where there were lots of karaoke rooms or norebangs and like some bars and restaurants. So I'm sure that she encountered more than one drunk person on the street. And she will scamper at the sign of anything that's scary. Like if there's a big sound, she'll run to the safest place. She has her spots in her house that she likes to stay in. She's basically the opposite of Jayu in terms of risk tolerance. And for good reason. She's had a lot. in her life. We even heard from a woman that was looking after her when we found her that she had babies, but she was too weak to take care of them and they died. So she's had some tragedy, she's had some trauma. And Nyangi can go outside. I will let her outside without a leash because I take Jayu out every day I can on his little leash, and he just has a long leash where he roams through the backyard. Sometimes I'll take him on walks. I'll carry him or I'll walk him on his leash. And Nyangi, I don't have to put her on a leash because she won't go far, number one. And number two, any little sound or any little sign of danger, she runs back in. Even if I'm like, Nyangi, come in, she'll come back in. It's opposite of Jayu. If I did that with Jayu, he would sprint and run as far and fast as he could. So, Jayu, the name Freedom. I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking, yeah, freedom, really. Jayu feels safe. He's never known major danger, as far as I know. And he feels safe enough in his environment where he knows he can leave and come back. And there's a parallel here. Stay with me. Freedom comes from safety. Our ability to roam and adventure and leave what feels familiar comes from a sense of anchored safety. Jayu knows he's safe with me. He knows he's safe at home. He knows where home is. He can find it. And so, as much as I don't want him to escape, Jayu, I'm not telling you it's okay to escape. I'm just letting him know. I know he'll always come back if it's up to him because he feels safe here. So he can go on his adventures and he knows that he always has a place to come back. I'll always be here for him. He knows that. Nyangi knows that too. You might be familiar with the attachment study or even what triggered or preceded this idea of attachment theory or correlated with attachment theory. You might know attachment theory like secure, avoidant, disorganized, anxious, and mixtures of all of those. They did a study in babies where they brought mothers and their children into the lab and they watched how the babies responded when the mothers weren't paying attention to them or when the babies went farther away from their guardian. And what they found is that sometimes a baby, if they would feel comfort and not cry when they were with their mother, but if they went to play with other kids or their mom wasn't paying attention to them, they started to cry and feel distressed. And that would be correlated with anxious attachment, which I'm very familiar with myself. And then and other babies, they would leave and go play and engage with other things, or their mom wouldn't be paying attention to them and they would appear calm. But when they did the stress metrics, they found that the babies were actually in very high stress, but they had learned to not show it because they knew they wouldn't get what they needed from their guardian. And that's correlated with avoidant attachment. And then there were some babies where it was a little bit more unpredictable. So that's disorganized. And then you had the secure babies where they would feel happy when they were in their mother's presence, but they were also happy and had low stress when they went to go play with other kids or their mom was paying attention to someone else. They knew that their mom was going to be there, that their mom was going to take care of their needs, that they were going to be okay. And maybe you can start putting together this correlation that I'm making, this connection and comparison I'm making with freedom and safety. Nyangi because of her trauma. And if you have pets who've experienced trauma, you understand that it's not something that just goes away. It can get better, but oftentimes it just like something stays with them. And so far, I don't know of like a somatics therapy for animals. If you do, let me know. Maybe that's the next thing I'll do in my 50s. Somatics for animals. Not a bad idea, but Nyangi won't go very far. She doesn't feel as safe to venture. Not because she doesn't feel safe at home. It's where she does feel safe, but she's encountered a lot of danger outside. And her formative years had a lot of trauma in them. Whereas Jayu, besides his little box, which probably formed his desire to escape, that's another layer. But for the purpose of this comparison, he is more free to roam. And I want to think of this idea of home and journey. And even with the baby study, thinking about it, thinking of your health and your body this way. So in the 4-H method and in my work, I say your body, your home, your health, your hero journey. So if you think about this idea of having a place of safety, and the nice thing about this is that it's not in a specific physical place that you need to go to. It's always where you are. And I know that can sound so counterintuitive if you don't feel safe in your body. And I'm sending you love and hope that it is possible to feel safe in your body as someone who did not feel safe in her body for years and years and years, decades, and has come to a place of, oh, I love my body. And of course, sometimes I forget and I get scared or I get anxious, but I know I always have a place to come back. I always have a place to come back, even when I get overwhelmed by life stressors or people's ideas or busyness or things to do. I know, and I've practiced this more and more frequently, and it's been more and more beneficial. I always have a place to come home to, and that's inside of me, and it's always with me. Sometimes I just need to come back into my body and be present with what is happening. And that's really health. That is thriving. That is living. So in the 4-H method and in my philosophy or structure, health is comprised of three things. You might remember this, you might not. If you go to the 4-H method, you can see some strings throughout. But there are three components of health that I define. uh, it's empowerment. So it's empowerment from society and culture, from our negative voices, to just be for our body, be allies for our body. And then it's also energy and not just always feeling energetic. It's not about like a constant high energy to accomplish everything you want to do and then some. It's more of an alignment with who you are, more of being in tune with your energy levels. So you're with your body, your mind and your heart and your body. All of you is aligned. You're with your body. And then the last thing is embodiment. And this is really just presence, and your body is your way of experiencing life on this earth through your senses. And so embodiment is being in your body. And the more you can practice and experience what it's like to be in your body, you heal. Trauma takes us out of our body, and for good reason. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good to be able to regulate and to have activation and deactivation. That's all a part of being a healthy human. It means that your body is working. It means that you're trying to survive. But it can also permanently, chronically take us away from our body, where we're living in a state of fear or we're living in a place of an event that has already happened and is no longer a threat. It may be, but usually is not. And so part of health, or I think even the very definition of health is being in your body, your home. And that is something that I help you do in my work, whether it's through movement or exercise or food or workouts or mm, meditation. That is a huge goal or a landing point for health, experiencing real health, deep health. So when you know that your body is your home, this is the next part, you're able to, like those babies are able to leave their moms or be temporarily disconnected from their moms and play with other children or not have her full attention and feel safe in their bodies because they have that connection, that attachment, that healthy connection with her. Same for your body. Having that healthy connection with your body allows you to mess up, to go play, to adventure, to explore, to be in new, maybe unfamiliar, maybe a little bit scary places, to try new things, to fail and know you're going to be okay. Does that make sense? A lot of health and fitness is so much, we start with that outside of, I just need to do these things. Da 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 da. I was watching this video about but different body types. Jeremy Ether, he's big in fitness. He's a really big fitness dude. We're talking about different body types and caloric intake and caloric burn and activity levels, and they did some studies. Uh, and there was like this templated idea of like, it is always good to lose fat. It is always good to gain muscle, which in some cases may be the case. But there's just like, oh, this is good and this is bad. So we're given this like, oh, this is what I need to do. I need to have this body type, or I need to gain more muscle so I can look more toned, or so I can burn more fat, so I can eat more. Because food is so, I need to like control my eating. So that's another diet culture rabbit trail. But the deeper way of healing in a truly peaceful and joyful way, where it's not to perform, but you're empowering yourself to disconnect, at least temporarily, with society or culture's expectations and come back to what you are, who you are, what is inside your home. And when you are connected with your home and you feel safe in your body, you have permission, you have leeway to explore, to be curious, to be open, to try new things, to make mistakes, and not beat yourself up. And that's the whole idea of the 4-H method. You are worthy, you are powerful. That is hope, happiness. We take your whole self into account with your values, your desires. Habits, we put these things into simple practices, simple daily practices, and that results, all of that is health. They're inextricable. That's why I do the concentric circles. It's just all a part of health, everything, all of you. So Jayu hasn't changed. He's 10 years old. He's, according to the charts, he's like getting into senior years. And I know he's probably going to live for a long time. If he stays smart about not escaping and getting into trouble. But he still has that sprightliness. He's a little more calm. He sleeps a little bit more than he was when he was a kitten, but he hasn't changed. His essence hasn't changed. He's still Jayu. He's still freedom, and I love him so much. And he's my little guy. He's been with me through a lot of changes, and he knows that I'm always going to be here for him. I know he's always going to be here for me, and same with Nyangi. And it's so beautiful to have these little pets, these little amazing creatures in our lives. But you need safety to be free, a home to come back to, and you are free to be all of you and go on adventures with your health. To try to mess up, it's not a pass fail thing, it's an exploration. And that's really what my work is about: your body, your home, your health, your hero journey. So, if you would like to learn more about how that looks practically, because I know these are ideas, but you're like, okay, but what does this look like? I have it all structured in actually extremely practical steps and structure and support and strategies to help you, all in the 4-H method. This is my work. I love it. Hope, happiness, habits, health. And I also love Jayu and Nyangi. I might make a post of this with this podcast when it comes out. So maybe check out my Instagram, my Facebook, my TikTok. Check out the site that this is on. You might see some pictures of baby Jayu and him throughout the years on adventures. Thankfully, no capturing of me jumping that roof, slipperless and sweaty. You deserve to have freedom. You deserve to feel that freedom that is already yours and experience it, not just in your head, but in your real life. And that's what I invite you to. I love you, Jayu. I love you, Nyangi.